Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're digging into something that can honestly open up so many doors in your life, both at work and just, personally. I'm talking about the art of conversation. But here's the thing. For a lot of us, it's a huge source of anxiety. The good news? It's not some magic talent. It's a skill, and you can absolutely learn it.
So be honest, does the very idea of walking into a room full of strangers and having to make small talk just fill you with a little bit of dread? Yeah? If you've ever had that moment where your mind just goes completely blank right when you need to say something, you are so not alone. That is an incredibly common feeling.
But this is the most important thing to get right from the very beginning. Being a great conversationalist, it's not something you're just born with. It is a skill. And just like any other skill, you can learn it, you can practice it, and you can get really, really good at it.
So let's break it all down piece by piece. First, we're going to look at how to actually start a conversation. Then, how to keep it going smoothly. We'll even cover how to handle those awkward, tricky moments. We'll talk about what topics you should probably stay away from. And finally, how to wrap things up and make a really graceful exit.
Okay, first up, starting the conversation. This is, let's face it, usually the biggest hurdle for most people. But breaking that initial silence, it's way easier than you think, especially when you have a simple little formula to follow. Okay, here it is, a super simple 3-step method. Step 1, just observe. Find something in the environment you both share, maybe the music, the food, the event itself, and make a comment. Step 2, greet them. A simple, warm hello with a smile goes a long way. And third, and this is key, ask an open-ended question. So instead of, are you enjoying the party, which just gets a yes or no, try something like, so what brings you here tonight? See, that actually invites a story. All right, you did it. You broke the ice. But now comes what can feel like the tricky part. How do you keep the conversation from dying out? This is all about mastering that middle section and keeping the momentum going. I absolutely love this way of thinking about it. A good conversation is like a game of catch. It needs that easy back and forth exchange, right? If one person is just holding onto the ball and talking forever, or if they don't throw it back, well, the game's over. The whole point is to keep that ball in the air between you. So how do you get good at this game of catch? Well, the number one golden rule is to listen way more than you speak. Seriously, when you ask follow-up questions, you're doing more than just filling silence. You're showing you're actually interested. Try to find some common ground. And, don't be afraid to share little stories about yourself too, to keep it a two-way street. And honestly, simple things like relaxed eye contact and just nodding along make a world of difference. But let's be real, not every conversation is a perfect, smooth ride. What do you do when you hit an awkward bump in the road? That brings us right to our next section, navigating those tricky moments. I'm going to give you a few go-to phrases that can help you handle those sensitive spots with grace. You ever find yourself wanting to say something that's maybe a little sensitive? This phrase is your absolute best friend, if you don't mind me saying so. It's like putting a polite little cushion around your words, showing you're aware that you might be getting into personal territory. And here's another great one. Excuse me if I'm being a bit nosy, but this is fantastic because it shows you're self-aware. You're basically apologizing in advance for being curious, which, funny enough, makes the other person feel way more comfortable and gives them an easy out if they'd rather not answer.
And finally, a really crucial one. Don't get me wrong, you use this just before you make a point that could easily be misunderstood. It's your way of saying, hey, hold on, let me make sure you understand my intention here before I say this. It's a total game changer for clarity.
Okay, so knowing what to say is one thing, but knowing what not to say, that's the other half of the battle. So let's dive into our next section, topics to avoid. This really is all about reading the room and, just respecting people's personal boundaries. Think of this as a little map of conversational safe zones versus danger zones. You really can't go wrong sticking to universal stuff, hobbies, travel, movies, books, but you want to proceed with caution around really personal things. It's usually best to steer clear of topics like someone's age, how much money they make, or their marital status, unless, of course, they bring it up first. Just remember, the goal here is to make a connection, not to conduct an interrogation. So, you've started the chat, you've kept it flowing, you navigated it beautifully, and now it's time to leave. This brings us to section 5, making a graceful exit. How you end an interaction is just as important as how you begin it. It's the final part of that lasting impression you're going to leave. And just like starting, there's a simple 4-step process for a smooth exit. First, just wait for a natural pause or a lull in the conversation. Don't interrupt. Second, say something nice, like, hey, it was really great chatting with you. Third, state that you need to go. Be polite but direct. Well, I should probably get going, but... And finally, step 4, close on a warm note. A simple, have a great rest of your day is perfect. It's a respectful little formula that leaves everyone feeling good. You know, when you strip away all the techniques, all the phrases, all the topics to avoid, you're left with this one simple core idea. The ultimate goal of any good conversation isn't to sound smart, or to be funny, or even to be interesting. The real goal is to make the other person feel like they've been heard, like they've been understood, and that they are valued. It all just comes down to connection. And that pretty much wraps up our explainer. We've seen that conversation isn't some big, mysterious art form. It's actually a pretty structured skill. The steps are clear, the tools are simple. So really, the only question left to ask is, who will you go out and connect with today?